We do have political analyst Brian Sobel standing by to help us understand what this means for your average everyday American. We just talked with Savannah Behrman before you came on, Brian. She's a Senate reporter. We were talking to her about the nuts and bolts of what happens on Capitol Hill in the upper chamber during weeks like this. I want to ask you how this affects the folks that are watching at home. Savannah had mentioned the closure of national parks, but in general, what does a shutdown mean for American citizens and for federal workers?
Mainly for federal workers, it has an impact. For example, our military will go unpaid during a government shutdown. They're expected to continue to work until there's a resolution of this. And all departments of government in one way or another will be impacted, and to the extent that the federal government offices in many cases cannot do their job because they are limited by the shutdown, that will in turn impact regular citizens. So these shutdowns are not, Austin, in anybody's best interest. And of course, history shows us that we, in the last few years, going back to the Obama administration, for example, where there was a 16-day shutdown of the government, and Bill Clinton, a 25-day shutdown in the government, and the last time Donald Trump was in office, a 35-day shutdown in government. Always the impacts are great, and people, mainly federal workers, are the ones who suffer.
You know, people have been asking me all day, who is to blame for this shutdown? And that's not an easy question to answer, is it, Brian?
No, but its origins are in the fact that when one party or another attempts to gain leverage, either they're in the minority or they're in the majority, when that happens and then they refuse to back off, this is when something comes to a shutdown. America has always been based, historically back to the first Congress, on compromise. And anytime there's a government shutdown, Austin, it means that compromise has gone out the window, or at least momentarily or for a while is not achievable. And so that's where we find ourselves here, a couple of hours away from the government shutdown. And it's because both sides in Congress cannot sit down and find a way forward, and obviously the president has been unable to compel that either. So it's a difficult crossroads right now, and all we can hope is over the next few days that this is solved so that we don't have a repeat of that 35-day shutdown that happened in the first Trump administration.
As you've alluded to, this isn't the first shutdown that we've lived through. What typically gets us through these things? What typically has to happen in order to get a deal done?
The clamor of the American people and those who will have to set aside their paychecks waiting for this to be resolved. Most vital things, Social Security and other things, that gets paid, but many other things go unpaid or held until the shutdown's over. And so what happens is the hue and cry emerges from the American people and is a catalyst for Democrats and Republicans to actually give ground. And that's what this is all about, is right now, as we're watching the Capitol on the screen here, those people working in the Capitol, if they haven't gone home and just assumed the shutdown is going to occur, they are, as of yet, not willing to move on a compromise to avert a shutdown. And so we have to wait and see. But to your point, or to your question, these things sometimes take days to resolve until there's enough anger from the American people that the members of Congress decide, hey, we need to resolve this, or we're going to have to give ground on this.
The time on Capitol Hill, 9:26 just about. As you mentioned, there was a 3-week-long shutdown during the Clinton administration. There was a 16-day-long shutdown under Obama. There was a 34-day-long shutdown during Trump's first term. There's been many more throughout history that were very short, Brian. What dictates how long these things last? What makes the difference between a weeks-long shutdown versus an hours-long shutdown?
I think it's just basically, as history shows us, enough of a a situation where people start really getting upset, that the members come together and say, okay, those things that we didn't want to give on, we have to give on. For example, the idea of a CR, a continuing resolution, was thrown out. This could have been averted had an agreement been reached to extend essentially the negotiation period for a while longer, until November was the plan. And instead, it's brinksmanship, and these two sides do not want to come together yet. And that is going to result in this shutdown here in a couple of hours. Everybody hopes it lasts a day, 2 days, 3 days, and does not go on for that period of time during the Trump administration, over a month, where it took a long time to recover from that, because when you slow everything down or stop things, it takes a while to restart things.
Brian, I'm glad we had you on tonight. This is complex stuff, and it's, of course, going to be something that we're tracking not only when the clock strikes midnight, but as the week goes on. I would love to see how Leader Thune, Minority Leader Schumer, how the lower chamber, the upper chamber deal with this moving ahead. Brian Sobel joining us tonight. Have a good night.
You're very welcome, Austin. Have a great evening.